Hello, and welcome to What's the Tea? I'm your host, as always, at Owen the Man 316. So let's get things started with NXT Vengeance Day. I actually know a friend that was in DC for this. So, Carter, shout out to you, man. Hope you had a great time. So, first we started with Stephanie Vaquer versus Fallon Henley for the NXT Women's North American Championship. What a great opener is what I can say about this. Because we knew Stephanie was already considered one of the best in the world, but I really think you can put Fallon Henley there too, because, man, she really did a great job of keeping up with Stephanie and busting out some moves of her own. As this was just a good back and forth, and the crowd seemed to like it, so, I think this was honestly a really good match. Congrats to Stephanie on becoming the NXT Women's North American Champion. And honestly, props to Fallon Henley. She really found herself as a heel, as the leader of Fatal Influence. I liked everything with her title reign and with her leading Fatal Influence. Her, Jasmine, and JC, they have this good chemistry together as a faction, and they just look really badass together. So, that was a great opener. Now, I didn't watch the rest of the matches, but I did watch the main events, which was the thing that I was the most excited for. Bayley versus Cora Jade versus Julia versus Roxanne Perez for the NXT Women's Championship. Now, I gotta say, this match really took me back to a simpler time, which would be NXT Rival, which is when the Four Horsewomen had their famous Four Horsewomen Fatal 4-Way match that really put NXT on the map in a lot of ways. Because it was an amazing match that showcased the absolute best of each one of the Four Horsewomen. And they were a big part of what really got NXT to where it is today, in a lot of ways. As for the match, man, this was honestly, in a lot of ways, a good homage to that match. Because there's a lot of spots where it's just fast-paced that I can just tell there was a lot of inspiration taken from that match. And I think that's a great thing in a lot of ways. Because, like that match, this showcased the best of Bayley, the best of Roxanne Perez, the best of Julia, and the best of Cora Jade, actually. I gotta admit, I was really impressed with Cora Jade in this match. Because, during her first kind of run in NXT, I wasn't really all that big on her. But that wasn't because I thought she was bad, it's just because I didn't really know much about her other than just she had a skateboard, then she didn't have a skateboard, then she had a bat. Then she was tag team champs with Roxanne Perez. Then she wasn't tag team champs with Roxanne Perez. I didn't really know much about Cora, but now I know a lot about her, and she had a really good performance in this match. We also got Bayley and Julia for a few minutes, which I know for a fact I'm not the only one that wanted to see that, because, wow. It was just a great few minutes of wrestling there between Bayley and Julia. And I still think we're going to get that match possibly in the summer, either at an NXT PLE or just on NXT. Because that, in my opinion, is kind of a dream match in a lot of ways. And, just as a whole, wow, look at where the NXT Women's Division is at today. Because now you have two of the Four Horsemen wanting to show up and be a part of it. Because you have Bayley feuding with Roxanne. You had Charlotte going to see Julia to see if Julia inspired her to pick her as the champion she'd face at WrestleMania. And that was really cool, getting to see those two back in NXT, who would have thought in 2025 we would see Charlotte Flair and Bayley back in NXT, even if it was just for one night. That was still really cool. But yeah, overall, this was a really good match. I liked the fast-paced start to it, and then the way it kind of slowed down and everybody just had their moments. Like you had Bayley and Roxanne taking out Cora and Julia in this match, just to get it to where they can fight each other. Which I do wonder if we're going to see this go any further, because it's kind of been stop and go with this Bayley-Roxanne thing, where we'll get something on NXT or we'll get something on Raw, and then we don't get anything, which sucks, because I think this could be a great match at WrestleMania. And that's why I honestly think that, why do we really need AJ Lee versus Bayley at this point? We kind of have it, in a sense, where Bayley is the vet trying to give Roxanne advice on where she's going and everything. And Roxanne's not listening. Like, she's still in that young age of her career. And Bayley is just the old vet trying to give her advice about not getting in her own way and just doing what she wants to do. But overall, this was a great match. Like, hats off to everybody involved in this. Bayley brought her best, Julia brought her best, Cora Jade brought her best, Roxanne brought her best. And you know, this was a really cool concept for this match. Bayley, a former NXT Women's Champion, representing the Four Horsewomen era of NXT. Roxanne Perez just lost the NXT Women's Championship, representing the NXT 2.0 era as well in some ways. Julia, the current champion. Cora Jade, the eager champion, the eager challenger representing NXT 2.0 as well. Like, I thought that was a really cool idea. And just a great way to really get people hyped for this match. You know, so they did a great job of really making you want to see this match. And it was a great match, you know. And then at the very end, we got a really cool moment where Julia's standing in the middle of the ring with her title. Out comes Stephanie Vaquero with her title. They look at each other, they smile. And that's just really cool for them, because think about where they were at this point last year. They were still wrestling in Japan, doing what they did. And now here they are in WWE, the top women's champions in NXT. Full circle moment, in a lot of ways, you know? And it's funny, because when I was doing my 2025 board for wrestling, there was one match I put on there for NXT Stand and Deliver in Vegas. Stephanie Vaquero versus Julia, title for title match. I still wonder if we're going to get that in Vegas. I could very well see that happening, you know. But then, just when we thought things were all wrapped up and done, out comes Jordynne Grace, officially making her debut in NXT. As her contract with TNA was up, and now she's a part of WWE, which is really crazy in a lot of ways. And she comes out, she looks at both Stephanie and Julia's titles, and it's like, are we going to get this at Stand and Deliver? A triple threat match? Winner takes all? We've seen this story play out before at WrestleMania. Let's see if we see it play out possibly at Stand and Deliver. And I could really see that happening as well. But man, NXT is just on fire, man. Absolutely on fire. Alright, so getting off of wrestling, how about the Four Nations face-off? This was just an incredible 10 days of hockey, you know? Like, you had the US, you had Canada, you had Sweden, you had Finland. You had a lot of cool moments, like with the first game, Mario Lemieux handing Sidney Crosby his team captain towel. I thought that was really cool. And the fact that was in Montreal was kind of really cool as well. A great first game played between Canada and Sweden, where Canada wins in overtime, 4-3. And the amazing part about that game, Canada was up 3-0. And then Sweden came roaring back to tie it, forcing overtime. But Team Canada finds a way to get it done in the end. Then the next night you had the US against Finland. And this started out as trench warfare between the posts, all knotted up at 1. Then the US took a 2-1 lead. And then they went up 3-1 in the third period. And then the goals just kept coming for the US, and Finland couldn't stop them, as they'd wind up losing 6-1 in that game. Then you get to Saturday, where you had two intense rivalries in international hockey. Finland and Sweden, who do not like each other. The US and Canada, who have respect for each other, but they're also very competitive, and they want to settle once and for all who is the best in terms of international hockey. Finland wound up beating Sweden 4-3 in overtime, and I was surprised at that, because that Finland team just did not look good against the US. But then they looked really good against Sweden. Like, this was a good old-fashioned shootout fight to the end, where Finland just was not going to give up, and Sweden just couldn't keep up in the end. And then you get to the Saturday night's main event portion, where it was the US against Canada in Montreal. Again, another game where it was trench warfare between the posts, where these two were knotted up at 1, and then we get to the end of the second period, the US is up 2-1. Then we get to the third period, where it just seems like Canada can't find a way to tie the game. Like, the US, Connor Hellebuck, shout out to him, what a heck of a job he did behind the net in each and every one of these games. Canada just couldn't find a way to tie it, and the US got that third goal that just clinched it for him to win 3-1. And Canada, the fans, they probably were not happy after losing to the US on Canadian soil, And that probably did kind of play an impact into the next game we're going to talk about. And what was crazy about this game? We're 9 seconds in, and we've already seen 3 fights. And apparently these were kind of set up by the Tkachuk brothers and members of Team Canada. But that's just crazy when you see the gloves dropping already when it's only been 9 seconds into the game. 3 fights. Like, I love seeing a hockey fight, but man, this was just crazy. And it really goes to show just how deep the rivalry between the US and Canada really goes. And something else to kind of note as well. When they did the national anthem of the United States, there were people booing. Which, I know, it's not really a big deal in a lot of ways, but still, it was just kind of crazy to see that in a lot of ways. But yeah, the US beats Canada 3-1. And then Monday, the US rests their starters against Sweden, and they wind up losing 2-1, which I guess that kind of derailed the momentum of the US in some ways. Because then earlier in the day, Canada beats Finland 5-3 to punch their ticket to the championship game. And this is where we get to Boston. Canada versus the US. The rematch in a lot of ways. And it kind of plays out like that first game, where Canada goes up 1-0, the US finds a way to tie it, then the US is up 2-1, but then Canada gets the goal to tie it up at 2. And then that third period, again, it's just trench warfare between the posts. Neither team being able to get an advantage or find a way to just score that goal to go ahead. So we go to overtime. And I kind of felt in the back of my mind that the longer this game went on, the more it really favored Team Canada, because the US was banged up, a lot of injuries. And Brady Tkachuk, who tried to go, didn't really look well. And we also didn't have Connor McAvoy, who was dealing with an AC joint issue that apparently the Boston Bruins were absolutely thrilled to hear about. But this was a really good game. You know, both teams just brought it. And in that overtime period, it just felt like this was Canada's to lose. You know, like, I didn't really think the U.S. could win this unless they just found a way to get that one goal, that one shot right past Canada. But, you know, I gotta give props to Jordan Binnington. He was in 2019 Stanley Cup form when he helped the St. Louis Blues beat the Boston Bruins and win their first Stanley Cup. You know, so he did a great job for Team Canada. And in the end, Connor McDavid puts it in the net, and you just hear the air completely go out of that place. You know, like, I was watching still after that, and it was just dead in there. On one side, you have Team Canada celebrating that they just won this tournament, and on the other side, you just have U.S. fans, U.S. players, U.S. coaches absolutely stunned and just heartbroken that they just lost that game. You know? Like, it was just crazy how silent it really was for that few minutes there. And you see the face of Connor Hellebuyck. He's still got his mask on, but he just looks so distraught, and he had that look on his face of, man, did I just cost us the game? And no, Connor, you did not. Man, you did awesome this entire series. Hold your head up high, man. You did great. Averaging 1 goal a game given up is pretty fucking impressive, you know? So hats off to Connor Hellebuyck. He was a big part of how the U.S. got here. And honestly, had the U.S. won this, he would have been my player of the Four Nations face-off. Because the U.S. would not have won any of those games had he not found a way to stonewall teams and just be an absolute wall in net, you know? So, hats off to Connor Hellebuyck. He did a great job. But I've really been saying this the past couple days because it's true. I've seen the Penguins lose countless playoff series, you know? And yeah, those hurt. Losing to Montreal, losing to the fucking Islanders twice, losing to the Capitals in 2018, which, you know, I've gotten over that one in a lot of ways. But to me, this was the hardest loss I've ever watched in hockey, you know, because I really wanted the U.S. to win that so badly. And they fought so hard this entire tournament to get to that final game that they could almost feel that trophy in their hands and those medals around their necks. But it is what it is, I guess. And you know, this kind of gets you really excited for the Olympics next year, because for the first time in a long time, we're going to have NHL players representing their home countries in the Olympics. And I think in Milan, we see the rubber match between Canada and the U.S., you know? Because it's only inevitable that these two are going to face off again. And both are going to go into this with something to prove, you know? Canada, yeah, they got their lick back from getting beaten on their home ice in Montreal. But the U.S., they're going to remember what happened in Boston in February 2025. That Canada came in and beat them on American soil, and also in Boston, the biggest hockey city in America, probably. They're going to remember that. And if I'm the coaches for Team USA, the first thing I show for the Olympic practices on that first day of film is that goal by Canada. Over and over and over and over again to motivate those players and to show them, gentlemen, we got this close to winning this tournament and beating Canada. We were that close. We are not going to let that happen again. Okay, so we got that close to winning, so let that motivate you, let that inspire you, let that fire you up to want to beat every single one of these teams and make it to that gold medal match. And if we see Canada again, let that fire you up to beat them. That's what I would use that for in a lot of ways. But yeah, congrats to Team Canada. I was happy for Sidney Crosby. I was happy for Connor McDavid. I was happy for Cale Makar. I was happy for the player of the Four Nations face-off, Nathan McKinnon. That was really an all-star team in a lot of ways. Because you've got the leadership of Sidney Crosby, who's won 3 Stanley Cups, multiple gold medals. The guy has one hell of a resume and is the perfect captain for Team Canada. He really led these young guys around the ice. And he never really had to do much except help these guys set it up to win these games by scoring goals, An incredible job by him, an incredible job by all of Team Canada. It did stink that the U.S. lost, but I gotta admit, Canada was probably the best team in this tournament. So congrats to Team Canada. And this was really a great thing for hockey, because you arguably picked 4 really good teams for this. And I know there are going to be people that argue that Russia should have been in this. And okay, I'll admit that's a fair argument. But you really can't go wrong with the US, Canada, Finland, and Sweden. All have very rich hockey traditions. And you get some really good rivalries out of this too. The lead-in for Saturday was just perfect. You had Finland, Sweden, you had US and Canada. 2 great international hockey rivalries. Who wins? Hockey fans. By seeing those games, So, what a great job everybody did with this Four Nations face-off. And I would say you should bring this back every single year before the Olympics to get people really excited for international hockey and for Olympic hockey too. So I would absolutely bring this back. And I was actually doing YouTube shorts on every one of these games. And there was really not one game that I can say was not fun to watch, Every one of these games was fun to watch. Because it was either a good old-fashioned shootout or it was just a battle to the end. And that's what you want out of hockey, Alright, so a couple Friday nights ago, it was just a typical Friday night. I had SmackDown on. I was working on a couple things for college. And then I opened Twitter and I see this long list of names got released, and I was like, wait, what? The first name I saw was Sonya Deville, and I was like, wait a minute, I just saw her at the Royal Rumble, wrestling in the Women's Rumble match. And she just got released? What? I was just shocked to hear that in a lot of ways. But actually, the truth is, she didn't renew her contract, which I'm a little surprised at that, but kind of not at the same time, because she really wasn't getting much and was just stuck in the Pure Fusion collective with Zoe Stark and Shayna Baszler. Sonya is a good wrestler and is great on the mic. That's what we really learned when she was the SmackDown general manager. Because I think that will really be the thing people remember her most for. is being that good authoritarian figure and being a great heel general manager, you know? But I wish Sonya nothing but the best. And it was really cool getting to see her in the Rumble match. But I'm sad that that's the last time I'll see her, possibly in WWE. But I wish her nothing but the best, you know? And thank you, Sonya, for everything you did in WWE. Our next name is Blair Davenport. And again, you know what's crazy about this? I was at SmackDown in Cincinnati the first night of the WWE draft, and I saw her get drafted to SmackDown. And it's like, wow, now she's not even a part of the company. I mean, it's just insane to me in a lot of ways. But Blair, like Sonya, they'll be just fine. I think Blair will probably sign with TNA or somewhere like that. Or maybe she'll go back to Japan, because, you know, she was really good in Japan as well. So I wish her nothing but the best. Duke Hudson. I was surprised at this because he was part of Chase U. But then I guess when Ridge Holland kind of put Chase U out of business by beating Andre Chase, I guess it kind of makes sense in some ways, because Duke was kind of a side character in a lot of ways, and there just wasn't really much that you could do with the guy in terms of being a singles competitor. But it seems like he's kind of landed on his feet already a little bit. He's got a podcast that I really want to watch an episode of because it looks really interesting. But Duke, I wish you nothing but the best, man. Thank you for everything you did with Chase U, and thank you for everything you did in WWE. Wish you nothing but the best in the future. Our next one, Cedric Alexander. I am surprised at this, because he was a big part of the Hurt Business, and you know, I really thought Cedric could have been great in the mid-card division. But I guess they just didn't really see my vision for the guy, which really sucks in a lot of ways, because he's a good wrestler. Like, I would highly recommend watching the Cruiserweight Classic back from 2016, because this is where this guy really made a name for himself. And he had some really good matches as a part of 205 Live as well. So Cedric, I wish you nothing but the best, man. Sorry to see you go, and sad to see you go. Then we have the AOP, Authors of Pain, which this one really surprises me as well, because weren't they brought in to be a part of the Final Testament with Karrion Kross? And I just don't know what happened there. Did it just not go anywhere, or did the company just not see anything in this? Because I thought at first that the Final Testament would be a really badass group that's just wrecking havoc backstage and wrecking havoc in matches, which they were at first, and then they just didn't have a clear direction for them. And it just sucks, because Akam and Razor, they are a great tag team. Watch their early work in NXT if you want to see what I mean, because they are really great. And Paul Ellering, my dad has told me a lot about this guy. He was actually the manager of his favorite tag team, the Road Warriors. And it's funny, when we were at SmackDown in Cincinnati, he was like, "Is that Paul Ellering?" And I was like, "Yeah, it is. He's a part of the AOP now." He's like, "Oh, cool, that's awesome." But yeah, that was really cool to get to share that with him as well. Our next two to be released: Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows, also known as The Club, The Good Brothers, and many other things. I am surprised at this, you know, because I really thought these two were going to be a big part of the tag division again, because in 2016, these guys were really a big part of the tag division, and just going on. And when they did The Club with AJ Styles as well, I thought that was really cool. You know, but it sucks that they got released. But odds are they're going to find their footing again. Maybe they sign with AEW. Maybe they go back to TNA. Maybe they go back to Japan. The door's open, in 90 days, I think. Our next release, who honestly I was very surprised at as well, Elektra Lopez. Elektra was a big part of Legado del Fantasma with Santos Escobar and Humberto Carrillo and Angel Garza. And I just think she really fit that manager role really well with that group. And I didn't really think she was a bad wrestler. The times that you do get to see her in the ring, she's actually pretty decent. And honestly, I thought the more you got her in the ring, the more she'll continue to improve and get better, to the point where she could probably be a big part of the main roster, or a nice feud for Chelsea Green with the United States Women's Championship. But alas, unfortunately, it just didn't work out that way. So Elektra, I wish you nothing but the best as well. Isla Dawn. This one really surprised me too, because her and Alba Fire had really good chemistry together as a tag team. Being a part of... Oh fuck, I completely forgot what their team was called. But they won the tag titles together in Scotland at Clash at the Castle. That was a really cool moment for both of them. So it just really sucks that we're not going to get to see Isla anymore, because she's honestly a decent wrestler too. Her and Alba are a great tag team. I wish her nothing but the best in the future. And finally, Giovanni Vinci. What can I really say about this guy, except I've seen him wrestle a couple singles matches, and he's really a good wrestler, and in a lot of ways, he kind of reminds me of Cesaro, or as he's known nowadays, Claudio Castagnoli in AEW. Because he's a strong guy, but he's also a really good technician in the ring. But unfortunately, just being a technician isn't enough to keep you from getting released nowadays, which is really unfortunate in a lot of ways. So yeah, I wish these people nothing but the best in the future. On to our next thing. So I was sitting at NKU eating my lunch, and I see this preview for this show on ESPN. So Stephanie McMahon was on the Pat McAfee show one day, and Pat says, "I'm going to start a show, and I want you to host it." So the trailer plays. And I don't know if you guys have watched Peyton's Places or any of the Places things on ESPN Plus, but we're getting a wrestling version of Places. And I think that's really awesome, because I watched Peyton's Places, I watched him interact with all these different famous places that were a big part of football becoming what it is today, and interacting with legends. And now we're going to get to see that with wrestling. And there's actually, in the preview I saw an episode that I think has to do with WrestleMania 35, which is where women main evented WrestleMania for the first time ever. And Charlotte Flair's in that, and I think that's really going to be an interesting episode. There was also an episode with Stone Cold Steve Austin. I didn't exactly get any details about that because trailers, they just move kind of really fast. But I think that'll be an interesting episode as well. But yeah, I think this will be a really great show, and I hope it gets more than one season. Because wrestling really has a lot of places you could go in terms of really finding out the history of it. And Stephanie, she grew up in the business, She grew up in the business. She grew up around the business. So she's like a historian of wrestling now, So she is absolutely perfect to host this. And I cannot wait to watch this. Alright, so on to our next thing. What a busy week last week for Bayley. First, she wrestled Lyra Valkyria on Raw in Nashville in an Elimination Chamber qualifying match. Then she wrestled Cora Jade the next night in NXT. And then she was part of the NBA All-Star Game on Friday night, taking part of the Celebrity All-Star Game. And she looked like she was having fun out there. Didn't really see if she made any shots, but hey, she looked like she was having fun out there and looked like she had a fun time at the All-Star Game, which just so happened to be in California. So, that's got to be like a full circle moment for her, getting to represent WWE at the NBA All-Star Game in her home state of California. That's a really cool thing to get to experience, And then she wrestled on Saturday at Vengeance Day, which that's just crazy, 3 matches in 1 week and the NBA All-Star Game. Couldn't be me. But wow, shout out to Bayley for toughing it out that entire week, and the matches she put on there were amazing. The one with Lyra Valkyria, I think, was really good. The one with Cora Jade was really good. We talked about Vengeance Day. So hats off to Bayley. She had a really busy week. And it's funny, she kind of reminded me of my stepmom when she goes on business for a week. When she leaves for a few days on business and goes to DC. She's got a lot to do, So, Sandy, shout out to you for toughing it out, too. I know it's been tough for you at work, but I'm really proud of you for toughing it out, You're doing great things, and just always remember that you've got a great supporting system around you. We got your back, and I'm really proud of you for toughing it out and just continuing to do what you do. It's really inspiring in a lot of ways. Moving on to our next thing. So, Friday Night SmackDown last night left me really confused. Let me start off by just saying this sentence to you and just see how confused you guys are by it. The Rock wants Cody Rhodes' soul? Are you as confused as I am hearing that for the first time? Because that segment was just really odd between Cody and The Rock, where The Rock talks about how they've become friends ever since WrestleMania 40, how their moms have become friends, and then he goes on this tangent about how he can make all of Cody's dreams come true, all of his wife's dreams come true, all of his daughter's dreams come true. And it's where are you going with this? Considering, let's not forget, this man literally tried to commit murder on Cody Rhodes on Monday Night Raw before WrestleMania 40. And this man literally did everything in his power to almost take Cody Rhodes out of WrestleMania. And now all of a sudden he wants to be his friend? He wants to help Cody? I get it, some time has passed, but this is just crazy, And just what a character change there. The Rock goes from wanting to end Cody Rhodes to wanting to help Cody Rhodes. It's just insane to me in a lot of ways. And now, next Saturday at Elimination Chamber, The Rock's going to be there and he's going to want an answer from Cody Rhodes on that. As The Rock wants Cody to be his champion and he wants his soul, which that's just wild, absolutely wild. But hey, congratulations to the city of New Orleans on getting WrestleMania 42. That's really awesome. Like, WrestleMania has not been in New Orleans in 8 years. So that'll be really interesting to see how that all looks in 2026, you know? And The Rock was definitely in his element as the final boss. He was calling fans trailer park trash, he was telling them not to sing with them, and he was doing everything he could to get booed. But the bottom line is people won't boo The Rock nowadays. Well, maybe they will, maybe they won't. I don't know. But in terms of Cody joining up with The Rock, I could only see this on one circumstance. Let's say we get to Toronto. It's the men's Elimination Chamber match, and John Cena wins it. And who does John Cena face at WrestleMania? Cody Rhodes. As he's trying to win his 17th world title and break Ric Flair's record. So this kind of puts the company at a bit of an interesting spot. You have Cody Rhodes, who's your babyface ambassador for the company. But then you also have John Cena, who's on his farewell tour. So, who are the fans gonna boo between Cody Rhodes and John Cena? Not John Cena. They're obviously gonna boo Cody. Like, you can try to make this a feud that's about respect and a championship, but I can just guarantee you they will be all for John Cena beating Cody to win that 17th World Championship. I absolutely guarantee that to you. So, maybe it's not a bad idea turning Cody heel, just to get him prepared for this. Because I could very well see that being the case on SmackDown, when John Cena and Cody Rhodes are going at it on the mic. It's just that John Cena is going to get the babyface reactions, and Cody is probably going to get booed. Because there are people that are tired of him as champion, but that's just kind of the way I could see that playing out in a lot of ways. But yeah, what a confusing segment. And I can't believe I actually just said those words in the same sentence. The Rock wants Cody's soul. Like, doesn't that just confuse the hell out of you? Because it confuses the hell out of me. Alright, moving on. So, we have another 2K game that's about to launch in March. So here is part 1 of my WWE 2K5 preview. And we're going to play a game of boo or woo for this one. Our first rating, Liv Morgan at a 91 overall. This gets a woo from me because, Liv has worked really hard to get better in the ring and on the mic, and she's really coming to her own as a heel. And her world title reign really got interesting in the middle and towards the end, because she had that really good match with Io Sky at Saturday Night's Main Event, and she had a really good match with Rhea on the first episode of Raw on Netflix. So, hats off to Liv. She deserves to be a 91. Moving on, Bianca Belair, a 95 overall. This gets a boo from me because I gotta be honest, I like Bianca, but I have a problem with this. It's just that she's kinda just been really a part of the tag division. And yeah, she's still putting on great matches, and still putting on great matches when she gets the opportunity to wrestle as a single star. But she hasn't really done anything of note this year. I don't really know how she's a 95. Honestly, I would bump her down to a 91 or a 92. Yeah, I get it, she was in the semifinals of the Queen of the Ring tournament, but other than that, and winning the tag titles twice with Jade Cargill, what does she really have to show for 2024? Except that. Like, that's just kind of what I'm getting at there. Alright, our next rating. Io Sky at an 86. This is way too damn low. And here's why. Io is arguably one of the best wrestlers in the world. And she's an 86 overall in 2K. This is just like the Madden ratings, where it's a popularity contest. It's not all about skill or anything like that, right? Right, EA? When are you going to tell us that it's just a popularity contest? Because 2K is doing the same damn thing with these ratings. Io arguably had one of the best matches of 2024 at WrestleMania 40 against Bayley for the WWE Women's Championship. Io continues to be a key component of damage control. Io walked into 2024 the WWE Women's Champion, and she continues to put on great matches, like that tag match with her and Dakota against Liv and Raquel on Raw, so I think she should at least be a 94 overall, because that's better, and that's putting her up there in a lot of ways. So this is a boo for me, for sure. Our next one, Bayley, an 87 overall. What the fuck, 2K? Are you telling me winning the Women's Royal Rumble means nothing to you? Are you telling me being a part of the most interesting thing on SmackDown 2024 means absolutely nothing to you? Are you telling me continuing to show up and show out and when she gets the opportunity to on SmackDown or on PLE or on Raw means absolutely nothing to you? Like, come on. Bayley at an 87? Really? I mean, I get it. Her WWE Women's Championship reign had its moments. But the matches, to me, are what really made her title reign. Her against Io at WrestleMania 40 was incredible. Her in France against Tiffany and Naomi was incredible. Her against Piper Niven was incredible. Her against Miko Satomura, the final boss, at the live events in Japan, was incredible. And you're telling me she's only an 87? Bullshit. She should at least be a 95 overall. Come on. Do better, 2K. That's ridiculous. Alright, our final rating. Dakota Kai, an 82 overall. Oh my god. Lord help me for what I am about to say about this. Are we really not taking skill set into account with these ratings? An 82 for Dakota Kai. You have got to be kidding me. Like, she made it all the way to the finals to crown the first women's Intercontinental Champion. And that match with Lyra Valkyria was incredible on Raw's Netflix. Even while she was injured, she still played a key part of the damage control storyline, which was the most interesting thing on SmackDown 2024. And then when she came back, she had that first great match with Bayley on SmackDown. And you're telling me she's only an 82? This is a definite boo. She should at least be an 85 or an 86. Come on, 2K, do better than this. Because this is just disappointing. Alright, in part 2, I think we're going to talk about the new thing that's kind of like My Park in the NBA 2K series. But we'll get into that in the next one. Alright, so time for a little talk and tea. Let's talk about WWE Legends and Future Greats. So this is the new show that's on A&E that kind of reminds me a little bit of the old Tough Enough series. which if you don't know what Tough Enough is, you can find it on Peacock. It was this old series where a bunch of people would compete to win a WWE contract and get signed, I think, to the main roster, I believe. But anyways, I kind of get the vibes of that from this. But I think in a lot of ways it's kind of a little more subtle, because Tough Enough would kind of get really intense at times, to the point where people would just quit right on the spot. So, I kind of like this format where they have these legends who are going to pick out these 16 contestants to put them on their team. I think that's a really cool format. And for the legends, you really couldn't have done any better, because you've got The Undertaker, Mickie James, Booker T, Bubba Ray Dudley. Like, these are 4 of the best in each of their individual fields. Mickie James, arguably one of the best to ever lace up a pair of boots in the women's division. Bubba Ray Dudley, one half of one of the best tag teams in the history of WWE, and really pro wrestling as a whole. The Undertaker, who is literally known as one of the best, and was a locker room leader for a very long time. Booker T, who was absolutely incredible in WCW and had a good run in WWE, but also has his own wrestling school and his own wrestling promotion that he runs called Reality of Wrestling in Texas. So you really couldn't have found any better people to be the legends in this show. Let's get into the first episode, where they got to see their in-ring abilities and also their promo skills. And I'm going to highlight a couple promos. Starting with this one promo by this one girl, Serena, who her dad actually got deported when she was 16 on her birthday. And she cut this really heartfelt promo about that, and about how she's been through a lot, and how she's coming for the women's division. I thought that was really, really good. Because I could feel that. Even sitting on the couch watching that, I could feel that promo. I could feel the heartbreak in her voice and the emotion in her voice. And that's when you know it's a really damn good promo, is when you can feel that as a member of the audience. And the legends could feel it as well. And then let's get on to a not so great promo, where this one guy decides to pick a fight with Bubba Ray Dudley. Yeah, that was not a smart idea. All because on the first day he didn't shake his hand. Motherfucker, what have you done to prove yourself? You're just some guy that just randomly, or that just decided to be a part of WWE Legends and Future Greats. You need to earn your place in the company before you expect a legend to shake your hand. And then the guy cuts this really first stupid promo, asking if a girl has Instagram after getting in a fight with somebody, and it's like, what the hell is wrong with you? Like, it got to the point where The Undertaker calls him back in the ring and goes, "Are you fucking kidding me?" Like, this guy just went in there and had absolutely no respect for the legends and no respect for the business. Like, I really hope this guy finds a way to get his head out of his own ass. 'Cause, I don't think this guy is going to last very long on this show. Because the guy just, to me, doesn't really seem like he gives a shit. He doesn't really seem like he cares. Because he cuts that fucking bullshit promo right then and there that just, it pissed off The Undertaker. You know you've done something wrong when you've pissed off The Undertaker. But yeah, overall, I think this is going to be a really good show. And I can't wait to see how this really goes, the direction it goes in. You know, like, there are a couple people that already really impress me. And we'll talk about that in the next episode. So, Charlotte Flair finally made her decision on who she's going to face at WrestleMania 41. And she chose Tiffany Stratton. I think it makes sense in a lot of ways, you know, because Charlotte and Tiffany kind of come from similar paths in a lot of ways. Charlotte was in gymnastics at a young age. Tiffany was in gymnastics for pretty much all of her life. Charlotte eventually found her way to WWE. Tiffany eventually found her way to WWE. Charlotte walked in the champion to her first WrestleMania, and Tiffany walks in the champion to her first WrestleMania. There's a lot of similarities to their paths, and I think that's just a great focal point for this story, is just they're really similar in a lot of ways, but they're really different as well. And, you know, it's kind of funny. Tiffany was actually inspired by watching Charlotte on SmackDown. You know, like, she was inspired by Charlotte Flair. And I guess Charlotte's inspired by Tiffany to want to challenge her at WrestleMania. And I think what they're doing so far is really good. You know, where it just ends with Tiffany laying in the middle of the ring and Charlotte standing over her. It's just that big obstacle in her way, that big roadblock. And I hear a lot of people saying they're not interested in this feud. I kind of get that in some ways, but here's why I'm interested in that feud. Both are going to walk into WrestleMania with something to prove. Tiffany wants to prove to Charlotte that she's not the next Charlotte Flair. She's the one and only Tiffany Stratton. Charlotte, this is her first big singles match since that fateful night on SmackDown where she completely messed up her knee against Asuka. And, you know, she goes into this trying to prove that she's not washed, that she's still the Charlotte Flair that we know and love in the ring. You know, so that's kind of something to really look at and go, that's a really interesting thing to kind of focus on there, is that both are going into this with something to prove. And you know, Tiffany did a lot of stuff in Charlotte's absence. She had a fantastic showing at the Women's Royal Rumble. She had an amazing debut in Australia in the Women's Elimination Chamber match. And she won Money in the Bank. And she cashed in on Nia Jax on the first SmackDown of 2025. She did all this while Charlotte Flair was gone and was still recovering. But now Charlotte is fully rested and fully rehabbed. And now you just kind of wonder, can Tiffany step to the Queen? And can Tiffany beat the Queen? You know, like, that's kind of the thing that I think really makes this interesting. Because like I said, Tiffany was inspired by Charlotte. And now she's standing face to face with Charlotte. Can she rise to the occasion? Or does Charlotte win at WrestleMania and complete probably one of the best comebacks we've seen in a long time? Because she came back, won the Women's Royal Rumble, and then she could possibly be a 15-time women's champion at WrestleMania if she beats Tiffany. Like, that's the thing I would focus on the most with this, is, does Tiffany know she can beat Charlotte? And does Charlotte believe that she's still the very best? That she really is the GOAT in a lot of ways? That she's one of the greatest to ever do this? That she's the most decorated woman in WWE? And really in all pro wrestling? Like, does she believe in herself? You know, like, that's kind of what I think would be a good focus point as well. But that's why I'm really excited for this match, because, like I said, Charlotte was an inspiration for Tiffany. So in a lot of ways, Charlotte's like her wrestling mom, and Tiffany's like her wrestling daughter. And it'll be very interesting to see what happens in WrestleMania in Las Vegas when these two finally go head to head. So I'm very excited for that. Alright, on to our next segment. The return of Road to the Title. And this time we're going to focus on Sheamus's White Whale. So Sheamus, he's been around WWE for a very long time. He's won the WWE Championship, the World Heavyweight Championship, the United States Championship, multiple-time Tag Team Champion. He won King of the Ring. But there's just... oh, he's also won the Royal Rumble, too. I almost forgot that one. But there's just one title that seems to elude him every single time. The Intercontinental title. Whether it's coming it's coming up short against Gunther, whether it's coming up short against Braun Breaker, he just can't seem to win that one title. And it's the one thing preventing him from being a Grand Slam champion. Which honestly, I think that's kind of the last thing Sheamus wants to do in his career, is be a Grand Slam champion. Because, you know, he looks like he's in incredible shape every time we see him. But he's kind of getting up there in age, too, in a lot of ways. But, you know, if Sheamus can still go for a very long time, that's a great thing. But I just kind of see it this way. This is that white whale for him. And if you don't understand the term white whale, look up Moby Dick, where this sailor, Ahab, was trying to capture this white whale that he never quite seemed to be able to get. But this is the white whale for Sheamus, is winning the Intercontinental Championship. And now he's got Ludwig Kaiser in his way. So, you know, the way I think Sheamus gets back to the Intercontinental title, first you take care of Ludwig Kaiser, and then you stack up some wins and prove that you deserve to challenge Braun Breaker at WrestleMania. And that's when I think Sheamus wins the Intercontinental title, is beating Braun Breaker at WrestleMania, and finally capturing that title that has eluded him for so many years. I think that's when he finally wins that Intercontinental title. So, some sad news the other day. I was just looking through some news on the Score app, and I read Pittsburgh Penguins longtime announcer Mike Lang passed away at the age of 76. I was really sad to hear this, because Mike Lang was absolutely incredible at calling hockey games. He had his own style, and the man could call a good hockey game, because he had so many great calls that he just came up with on the fly. One of them that's my favorite is after the Penguins beat the Blackhawks in the 1992 Stanley Cup. He said, Lord Stanley, bring me the brandy." I thought that was just really a fun call, and just a really funny one. And it's funny, every time I play a game of pinball on our hockey pinball machine in our basement, every time I get it into the round hole, which gives you a point bonus, I say the line, "He shoots and scores." And that was one of Mike's iconic lines that I'll always remember. You know, like, he was really good at calling hockey games, and he was just a great guy. I always wish that one day I'd get the chance to meet him, because he was just a great guy, and just absolutely incredible. So, my thoughts, prayers, deepest condolences, love, and positive healing vibes go out to his family and friends. Mike was really a special person, and it sucks that he's no longer with us. Well, since I'm on YouTube now, I can't do 10 bells, but instead, here's what we're going to do to honor Mike Lang. So, at this time, if you would please join me in a moment of silence in remembrance of Mike Lang as I tap the table 10 times and to honor his memory. Thank you. Well, I think that's about all the time and all the tea we have here on What's the Tea. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. Hopefully this chef has found a way to satisfy your need for pro wrestling knowledge, sports knowledge, and entertainment knowledge. You know, I hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend. We got some really good hockey on. The Pens played the Caps. Kentucky plays Alabama tonight in college basketball. That should be a really good game. Hopefully my boys from Bama can recover after losing to Auburn last Saturday and losing to Missouri earlier in the week as well. But like I said, I hope you guys have a great rest of your week, or have a great rest of your weekend. Do something fun. Hopefully you don't have to work all weekend. It's nice that I don't have to do that now, because that really sucked back in the day. Like, the only satisfying thing with that was just my paycheck in a lot of ways. But anyways, I think that about does it. Hope you guys have a great week next week. I'm going to try to get this uploaded, I think, by Monday. Maybe. We'll see about that. But anyways, thank you guys so much for being my lovely audience. Have a great one. And let me know, what do you think of this format? Do you like it? Do you not like it? And for my people on Spotify, as I said in the last episode, yes, I am distributing episodes to YouTube now, but I'm still going to distribute to Spotify as well. So don't you worry, we're going to be on Spotify and YouTube. Everything is just fine. But for now, as always, before I go, not live on camera this time, peace, love, tea, pro wrestling, sports, entertainment, and whatever the fuck is going on in this crazy place we call Earth. Have a great one, guys. Peace, I'm out. Toodles, have a great one. And that, my friends, and possibly family, is the tea on that. Have a great one, guys. I'm out. I'll see you down the road next one.